Okay, everybody, welcome to Business Leadership Series that we have been putting out in response to so much distress being put on the business community during COVID-19. So we've been reaching out to different business owners who either have pivoted, shifted, have an inspiring message, and or something educational. So today we have something educational, and I have invited my very good friend Marj Ciucci. Marj is one of the top brokers in Lawley Insurance, which is recognized as one of the top 50 brokers in the U.S. And so I'm just going to introduce you, Marj, and you can tell us anything about your company that you'd like to. And then I have some questions that I'm hoping you can answer.
Hi, Jen. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So Lawley is, we're a top 50 privately held firm in the country. I don't want to, get anyone mad. So basically what we do is we provide all benefit services. So my branch is located in Mahopac, New York, and we do employee benefits. So I help companies put from 5-person lives up to 500 put benefit programs in place for their employees.
That's excellent.
Used to be Mac a lot of years ago. It used to be Mac. Some of you may have known me from Mac Creative. Yes. And we merged with Lawley about 3 years ago now. And it's been a really great, it's kind of like I've been able to keep that small town feel of Mac, but bring the resources of a really large firm to my clients.
Yeah, that's excellent. I own a private company, so I know what that's like. When you can hitch yourself to something bigger, but yet stay with that mom and pop feel.
Yeah.
Great.
It's nice to stay connected to people.
And you guys have been deemed essential since day one, but you're working remotely, right?
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We have the ability to work from our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though we're essential, we don't want to put our employees in danger. So we've kind of have told everyone work from home. Our phones ring on our cell phones, so it's seamless to our clients, but it keeps our employees safe. So, we're kind of looking at, we'll probably be one of the last people to open back up again.
Great. Yeah, we're probably going to go in next week, Chris and I, but our offices are like contiguous to each other, and it'll just be him and I, and we live at home together just to give a little presence there, but we will be doing the same thing. It'll be the real estate and the law. We don't need to have people in there for a long time. So I'm grateful for that too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So questions that I've been hearing basically from the business community. Let's start with, as I start to bring my employees who were laid off due to COVID-19 back to work, do they have a waiting period to rejoin their benefits?
So no, that's a great question. So there were two types of employees when all of this happened. Some employers furloughed their employees, meaning that their employees stayed home, but they kept their benefits intact. So for those employers who chose to furlough employees, when they bring them back, they've been on their health insurance benefits, so they'll be able to stay there. For those that actually had to lay off their employees and stop their coverage, all of the carriers in New York for small groups that's under 100 have made the decision that they're not going to have a rehire waiting period. So if your waiting period usually ends on the day you bring your employees back, they'll be eligible for coverage. Or if it's the first of the month following when they rejoin, they'll be able to get coverage.
Excellent. And thank you for clearing something up, because the word furlough has been used so often. And I didn't even think to just stop and look up the word. I know the word as it pertains to unions, right? So now I understand that definition. So thank you.
I know, and you know what? That became a big thing just for this COVID. So furloughed and laid off employees were never a big difference. But it's kind of how carriers differentiated the difference between employees that were just kind of told to stay home, we can't afford to pay you, but we're going to keep your benefits. Right. And as soon as the PPP comes back or we're allowed to open up again, we're going to bring you right back. So those kind of became furloughed employees. And then we had the laid off ones where some employers couldn't afford to pay for the benefits while employees were out.
So this is a question you may not have the answer to, but it prompts me, and if you don't, you can get us the answer. So furloughed employees, does the benefits interfere with them being able to collect unemployment at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So the fact that their employer has kept them on medical benefits doesn't affect their unemployment at all. It just means that the employer is still paying their portion,
Great.
so that employees are not, paying the whole ticket for their health insurance.
Excellent. Sorry if it was a dumb question, but that's how
No, there's no questions that are dumb. There's been so much that we've learned in the last 2 months as things have changed.
Absolutely. Okay, so then I've heard that COVID claims are covered differently than non-COVID claims. So
so what they did was they came across and they made basically legislation that said we're going to cover COVID claims at 100%. So there's no co-pays, there's no co-insurance. And where this really becomes important is that a lot of people have high deductible plans that they have maybe health savings accounts with and stuff. And the coverages are covered at, COVID claims are covered at 100% without hitting that deductible. Oh. So employees don't have to hit a deductible before they see coverage for that kind of claim. And the testing and now the antibody testing, they're also putting in as covered at 100%. So, they really come out and kind of say COVID claims are different, special. We don't want anyone hurt by this. So we're going to, carriers just cover them at 100%.
That's great. That's really great. That's good news. So I've also heard that there are changes to FSAs. First, I don't know what FSA stands for. I just heard this. So you might want to tell me what an FSA is, and then what does it mean for employees?
Okay, so there's been a lot of changes to these. So FSAs are flexible spending accounts.
Yes.
So they're all tied in with your cafeteria plans, and those are the kind of things that let you pay for your benefits on a tax-free basis.
Okay.
So back in March or April, some carriers were letting employees who had not elected coverage earlier to now join the plans, which is not normally allowed to be done. But what some of the employers had questions about was that, we're making these changes to a cafeteria plan that we're never supposed to be allowed to make changes to mid-year. So what basically they came out and they said, retroactively back to 1/1/20, cafeteria plans may allow mid-year pre-tax election changes. So they kind of just covered those employers that had already done this and changed some of their medical options for employees. They kind of just backed up that law to make them in compliance. And then with FSAs and DCAs, basically what they did was they allowed them to make changes mid-year. So like if somebody was putting money in a flexible spending account, I could put money away on a pre-tax basis to spend for out-of-pocket medical expenses. Okay? What they're saying now is that we're 2-3 months where no one has been able to really get medical services unless they had the COVID. So what they've come back and said, or dependent care accounts, that's for daycare and stuff. Well, there's so many people working from home, now they're not using their daycare. So what they've done is come out and said, we'll let employees make changes to these accounts because we understand nobody expected this. Nobody expected to be home as long as they were. So those are the kind of changes that they've already let. It's important to note, though, that you don't have to let your employees do this as an employer. However, if you do let your employees make changes like this, you have to change your plan documents. So you have to make sure that you stay in compliance by changing them.
So why wouldn't an employer want to do that?
Because sometimes it's a lot of work. They have to go through, they have to pay for their plan documents to be amended. Some people feel like, the world's going to open back up again. Some employees were furloughed or laid off. So, they haven't been receiving paychecks, so they haven't been putting money into these accounts.
Right.
So it's not necessary for every employer to do it. They have to really look at their employees and see what works best for them.
Right. And if schools don't open in September or, like some Putnam County employees may have people who live in Westchester who can't get health services still. Putnam County is one of the green counties, so we can get elective surgeries. It's something that they may want to consider a little bit down the line.
Right. And then they've also, Yeah.
Okay, so are there any compliance timeframes that have been extended due to COVID-19?
So, yes, there have been. So, basically, and I got to read these because there are quite a few. But what they've done is normally there's time frames in all of insurance things like COBRA and when you get married, a special enrollment period. So what they've done is they've come up with this new formula, and basically they said when the national emergency period has ended. So for instance, let's say that ends, the federal government comes and says, okay, the national emergency period is over, effective for June 30th. Okay, we can all live in hope, but June 30th. Then there's a 60-day outbreak period that they're giving in addition. Okay, so that would take us from June 30th all the way out to August 30th. Okay, then those guidelines kick back in.
Okay, so national emergency, national disaster or national emergency, whatever you call it, 60 days after that ends. Well, that helps my question, because I was going to ask, what about a place like New York that's been hit so much harder than Iowa? So at least there's that 60-day buffer. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, great. Also heard that there's a special enrollment for medical plans due to the COVID-19 outbreak. What does that mean?
So
enrollment. So I know what open enrollment is. What's the special?
So like, for instance, let's say, I'll use an example. Let's say Mary had a baby on March 30th, okay? Normally, Mary would have, and she didn't take the coverage beforehand. So her having a baby would create an open enrollment period for her to join her employer's medical plan, okay? So if she had the baby on March 30th, she would have had till April 30th to put her and the child on the plan. But because of what we just spoke about, she has until the end of that emergency period, which if we use my example of June 30th, 60 days after that, that puts her at August 30th, then 30 days, which is the normal time frame. So she actually gets till the end of September to choose to put her and the child on the plan or not.
That's great. That's great. Because I know a lot of people are just overwhelmed and just have so many more details in a day. So it's good to have that little.
Or they're not at work, or there's not somebody at work that can take their enrollment, or yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. So there's also been recent changes to the COBRA timeframes. Can you explain what those are?
So these, I think, are more important because, usually when somebody has a baby, they're looking to get on the plan as soon as possible, especially in this kind of environment. But with the COBRA, there's two ways that it affects. So let's say an employee leaves, and they normally have 60 days in which to elect COBRA. They decide not to elect. They decide to elect COBRA, not to elect COBRA during that period. What happens is that this is now put out by this national emergency period. So those 60 days for an employee to elect, in our prior example, wouldn't start until the end of August. Right. So technically speaking, somebody who's fired March 30th could have until the end of October to elect COBRA. Okay. The downside of this is that nobody has to make payments. That 30-day grace period that's always put onto COBRA payments now is put out by that national emergency period. So we're talking about people may be the end of September before they have to pay claims for, March, April, May, June, July, August. They're going to be huge amounts. And our fear is that employees are not going to be able to pay this, and that employers may get stuck.
So am I required to put a former employer on COBRA if they haven't made a payment yet?
So, yeah. So normally the timeframes are so close that employees pay for it at the same time as they elect it. But in this, because they have such a long election period, they can elect it now and not pay for 6 or 7 months. So the answer is yes, you have to put them on even though you haven't received payment. And then what they're telling us is that if they don't make payments when they have to, by the 30-day grace period after the national emergency period and after the outbreak, you can turn them back. What we're really waiting to hear, though, is if insurance carriers are going to let us do that. Insurance carriers don't have to let us term somebody 6 months back.
Okay, so I think I had written this question. I'm not sure if we already just answered it. So if the end of the extended time period ends and an employee hasn't paid me, what do I do?
Okay, so yes, I kind of
Okay.
talked
Just
more than
what
I
I
should have.
But
So-
some of this is like Chinese, so I can't be too
Yeah.
careful because we need to
No,
understand.
no, that's okay. And that's, I think, a real concern with this law for employers, especially small group employers, because, you know, if somebody's paying $1,000 a month in coverage, who wants to get stuck with $6,000 worth of bills that they may not be able to get reimbursed for?
Right.
So I think the insurance carriers are going to allow us to go back, and if the employee has claims, they'll have the doctors go after them. But we haven't received final confirmation of that yet. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Yikes. Yeah, if you could keep us posted on that. We definitely would like to have you back as often as you feel, oh, I have an update, because this is important stuff. And like I said, you know, a lot of businesses are now running from home, and they've got kids running around and homeschooling, and it's really hard to keep up with all of this. And we had Pat Mulligan on, and she was great keeping us up with legislation that has come out. So we appreciate it greatly. So are there any compliance timeframes that have been extended besides what we've already talked about due to COVID-19?
So yes, some things like claims appeal times. So it's to submit claims and appeal claims, you get that emergency outbreak period as well. So people shouldn't stress in this time if they have claims that weren't paid and they haven't fought it or they haven't appealed it. They have an extended period of time to do that. Some of the ERISA notices, like your summary plan descriptions, your summary material modifications, all of those kind of documents that you're supposed to give to your employees within 30 days of your renewal, they've opened that up and given additional time to do that.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's the bulk of my questions. I might have more at some point. Sounds like mostly good news. The COBRA thing is a little shaky for small business owners. That could get ugly.
Yeah, that's one of the things that can get ugly. And I really tell people, you know, to talk to their broker. If you make changes, just don't make changes. Make sure that the company is going to allow you to make changes, or your plan documents if you're self-insured, that you make sure you keep up on all this compliance stuff, because when the world returns to normal or its new normal, you don't want to leave any openings for employees to come back and say, well, wait, I was entitled to this, or, you know, you did this and you weren't supposed to. So it's really important to stay in touch with your broker and make sure that you're updating your employees and you're updating your documents as necessary.
So does everybody that has this kind of insurance have a broker?
No, I mean, I guess some people go direct. From the broker community, I'll say there's no reason to go direct. We don't cost you anything more. So it's good to have a broker on your side. Yeah.
So I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, I'm a real estate broker, and I don't support or think it's a great idea to be a for-sale by owner. I wouldn't even sell my house by myself. I would hire one of my agents to do it. So if someone doesn't have a broker and they realize, oh, this is a mistake, I understand that you can't really do much with their policy now, but going forward. So can you give your contact information? Because obviously I've worked with you. You were providing, I've had insurance with you, and I've worked with you with the chambers and whatnot when you've had those plans going, and you still do. So I know you really well, so I feel very comfortable recommending that anybody that doesn't have a broker should definitely call Marj Ciucci. So please give your contact info.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate that. And you're my favorite, well, I shouldn't say that, but you're my favorite real estate person as well.
Thank you.
So you can reach me. Our telephone number is 845-621-4500. I'm extension 1. Our phones automatically come to our cell phones, so I'm always reachable. Or via email, it's my name, which is M. Ciucci. You can read it in that lower box of the screen. M. Ciucci at Lawley, Lawley Insurance.com. And we're happy to help. We can keep you with the same program and just become your brokers. We can look at options for you. So we're happy to help anyone out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, always a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to speaking to you more about taking a role with the Business Council. Maybe we can get that women's organization up and running again. So
I would love to be working back on